Joseph Smith was the founding prophet of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. He instituted and engaged in a system of secretive polygamy that has left a legacy of harm and controversy. An examination of Smith's conduct, particularly his methods of initiating relationships with young women, reveals striking parallels with the tactics employed by modern-day sexual predators. Smith leveraged religious authority, secrecy, threats, and spiritual manipulation in ways that align with known patterns of grooming and coercion. This video outlines a comparative analysis of Joseph Smith's behavior using documented historical sources, many of them from official LDS publications, and juxtaposes that with recognized features of predatory grooming. Here are 22 reasons that Joseph Smith was a sexual predator. Number 1. Spiritual blackmail and familial salvation. Smith frequently framed compliance with his intimate demands as essential not only to the woman's salvation, but also to that of her entire family. If you will take this step, it will ensure your eternal salvation and exaltation and that of your father's household and all of your kindred. Number 2. Demand for secrecy. Participants were required to keep their intimate relationships with Smith confidential, even from close family members. Participants in these early plural marriages pledged to keep their involvement confidential. Number 3. Use of divine threats. Smith attempted to justify his behavior through claimed angelic visitations and threats of death should he fail to marry multiple women. The angel came with a drawn sword, threatening Joseph with destruction unless he went forward and obeyed the commandment fully. Number 4. Promise of exaltation for compliance. Eternal rewards were promised to those who acquiesced to Smith's perverse advances. Crowns of eternal lives and exaltation in the eternal worlds were promised. Number 5. Exploitation of religious authority. As the self-proclaimed prophet of the Restoration, Smith was revered as divinely chosen, establishing profound trust and power over his followers, and he used his authority to exploit them. Joseph Smith has done more save Jesus only for the salvation of men on earth than anyone who ever lived. Number 6. Isolation of victims. Smith married sisters in the same household without informing them of each other's involvement with him. Neither of us knew anything about the other at the time. Everything was so secret. Number 7. Spiritual manipulation via prayer. Women were instructed to pray about Smith's proposals while being guided towards a predetermined outcome. Every feeling of my soul revolted against it, yet her room filled with a holy influence. Number 8. Threats of destruction for non-compliance. Failure to remain loyal to Smith after engagement was equated with spiritual and even physical destruction. In Doctrine and Covenants section 132, we read that Emma would be destroyed. This is reflected in Doctrine and Covenants section 132. She has committed adultery and shall be destroyed. Number 9. Framing consent as divine glorification. Smith told his followers that polygamous relations were necessary for God's glory and the fulfillment of divine commands. Again from section 132, for herein is the work of my Father continued, that he may be glorified. Number 10. Positioning himself as a parental figure. Some victims regarded Smith and his wife Emma as parental figures, complicating the relationship dynamic. From the autobiography of Emily Partridge Young, we read, they were almost like a father and mother. Number 11. Consent is framed as a test of faith. Smith linked acceptance of his marriage proposals to a woman's belief in his prophetic authority. From Todd Compton, we get the following quote, "He asked me if I believed him to be a prophet." Number 12. Joseph Smith targeted vulnerable and orphaned girls. Smith approached young women who were recently bereaved or otherwise socially dependent. For example, Eliza and Emily Partridge lost their father in 1840 and were later married to Joseph Smith. Number 13. Justifying emotional conflict as divine testing. Victims reported deep emotional distress, which Smith framed as part of God's testing. In my heart, I felt that I could not submit to them. Number 14. Deception towards his legal spouse. Smith instructed victims to keep their relationships secret from his wife, Emma, claiming a theological justification, saying that he was permitted to marry additional wives without Emma's consent. Number 15. Claims of premortal destiny. Smith told women that they were eternally destined to be his wives. The idea here is that Joseph said that the women were his before they even came to earth. Number 16. Threats of eternal damnation. Women were warned that rejecting Smith's proposals could bring eternal consequences. Again from Todd Compton, if you reject this message, the gate will be closed forever against you. Number 17, removal of spouses. In some cases, Smith sent the legal husbands away on missions prior to marrying their wives. An example of this is Miranda Hyde. Number 18, pre-existing relationships with young women. Smith had known many of his youngest brides since they were children. Several brides of his were known to Smith before the age of 6 years old. Number 19, economic and ecclesiastical leverage over the families. Smith had power over the employment, church standing, and financial well-being of victims' fathers. At least 10 young brides had fathers in high-ranking church positions. Number 20, integration of victims into the Smith household. Joseph took steps to integrate young women directly into his personal household. Quote, "My house shall be their home." Number 21, retaliation against public accusers. Women who rejected or exposed Smith's advances were publicly vilified. A couple of examples of this are Martha Brotherton and Nancy Rigdon, who were both subjected to character assassination after rejecting Joseph Smith's advances. And number 22 is contradiction of public doctrine. Smith's behavior directly contradicted publicly accepted church doctrine at the time. The 1835 Book of Commandments says that we declare that we believe that one man should have one wife. A comprehensive review of the primary sources here demonstrates that Joseph Smith employed many of the same psychological and spiritual tactics used by contemporary sexual predators to coerce young women into secretive sexual relationships under the guise of divine commandment. These methods, secrecy, emotional manipulation, religious authority, threats, and promises of salvation, align disturbingly well with patterns used in the grooming of victims today. Understanding these patterns is crucial not only for historical accountability, but also for equipping modern communities, particularly religious ones, with the tools to recognize and prevent similar abuse. Institutions that refuse to confront this aspect of their history risk perpetuating cycles of silence, shame, and exploitation. Thanks so much for joining me today. This is D-Vays with the Mormon News Roundup. Always think celestial, and remember, no unhallowed hand can stop the Mormon News Roundup from progressing.